Today I am joined in conversation with one of Boston's finest, Mr. Tony Puleo. Tony is a long-time member of the Boston theatre scene and also a session musician. Tony and I cover a lot of ground in this episode, so I'm pretty sure there's something in here for everybody. We discuss how Tony got into the theatre scene, how he works as a session musician with others, his gear, his relationships, and how he applies his knowledge to the bass. Please enjoy Mr. Tony Puleo.
So let's start off. Hey, man, I got to tell you, of all things, Alfie, I'm a fan of yours.
Really? Okay.
And can I tell you the reason, one of the main reasons why?
Please, please.
I don't hold back. There's so many YouTubers and like review people. And, you know, I noticed this, like, whether it's like movies and books and anybody gets reviews, a little bit less on the music side, unless they're criticizing a band. There's a lot of arrogance and put down persona by the YouTubers themselves. You don't have any of that, dude. You don't have any of that. And that's a pleasure to listen to.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I don't want to make this about me. No, I don't know. I just want to be honest, be myself. I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to push anything. And the whole point of my channel was to make content that I want to see. And this is what I want to hear and what I want to do. And thankfully, people like yourself, you enjoy it. And I'm happy to share that. And that's what I'm about. You know, I'm making content that I enjoy. And I'm very grateful that you as well enjoy it as well.
Yeah, totally, man. You do a great job of it. So I just had to point that out to start everything. Like, I love what you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Doing it.
You joined me in one of my streams, and it was only like afterwards, my fiance, she said to me, "Who was that guy asking you to check out his bass rig?" So, "Oh, I didn't look it up." And then she did. So, "You might want to talk to him. He kind of knows what he's doing." So I was like, "Oh shit, okay." And then thankfully that TalkBass thread come up, and I had it in the back of my mind to find you and go through the chat and find your profile. And like I said, thank you. You fought my corner. You totally understood what the video was about. And I just had to thank you outright for being in my corner, understanding my message. And I thought, I have to totally hook up with him now, as this has got to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I get exactly. You said a disclaimer right away. And if I can just talk about TalkBass, I don't know if you have a format. I'm so used to an open format, right?
I pick it up as I go. And like you said already, you've been around the block, you know what you're doing. So I'm just happy to talk with you about stuff rather than just I have a list of questions. So no, man, let's just jump wherever you want to go.
TalkBass is a weird thing, man. It's a weird internet phenomena. And I run with a lot of my professional friends who I chat with. I'll leave some names out, but they're people that you have seen on the cover of, industry magazines, right? A lot of them don't like TalkBass. They're like, they put it down. And I might be a glutton for punishment with a ball gag in my mouth or something. I'm still on there 20 years later, Only because I feel like I get something I can share and I can overlook those armchair quarterbacks. There's a lot of them. And I guess it's the internet phenomena. It's quick and easy to hide behind a keyboard and go and say something negative. I can't. I'm like total public persona. I'm there,
Mm-hmm.
Even my lawyer asked me to change my handle a long time ago. I had a different handle. I was Basswave, BASSWAVE. He's like, you can't do that. You put your name. And I'm like, all right, I'll change my name, so it's Tony P. So, I get, it's kind of a funny place, and they're quick to put things down. They're quick to say things, but there's little gems of gold in there if you did.
Yeah.
And, I know I've helped my sponsors. That's one of the main reasons. I know I've helped my sponsors by staying on there, so I have.
TalkBass is strange. I mean, you've been on it a lot longer than I have. And like you said, there is definitely gold nuggets in there. And it saved me a couple of times where there's been a link to an old Bass Player magazine article that no longer works, but somebody referenced the link. Oh my God. And I found like a nugget of information that I couldn't find anywhere else. So it saved me, and it's been a great resource. And like I said to you, I didn't post that video. One of my viewers did. And I posted a different gear rig video for Chris Novoselic from Nirvana. Nobody looked at it. Nobody cared. Fine. but you know, you say something a bit controversial and everybody jumps on you. It's like, it's water off a duck's back. It just surprised me what gets a reaction. I guess that's what took me
It
back.
really does. It really does. You know, I just say wear your heart on your sleeve. I can't. I don't know how else to do it. You know.
Yeah.
I'm a loud Italian guy, so I wear my heart on my sleeve. You know, and it's and people just take it. You know.
Yeah.
They know what you're about. Yeah, but TalkBass is an interesting thing. I've been on there. I think this August, 20 years.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess you like it then if you keep coming back. There's something that keeps taking you to it.
You know what it is? I get questions all the time. Like I'll just open and log in and be like, oh, what's going on? You know, just haphazardly. Because in my practice routine, I will purposely practice, stop, get up, walk out of the room, grab my phone, take a look. Oh, there's 6 emails. Okay. Direct messages. Hey, can you tell me about this bass? Or does GK do this? Or how do I get this audition? You know, so I'm like, oh, so then I get sucked in. I'm like, okay, well, people want to know something, so I'm gonna help them.
That's very honorable of you. You don't have to do that, you know. So no, it's really nice that someone actually does care.
Because I was that guy. Yeah, I was that guy. I got one. I'll be honest, Alfie. I got one harsh statement that I do make to people. So this is the kind of the controversial thing. One thing I get all the time is people ask me. I guess we'll leave that for the year. How do I get this endorsement? And I feel like, wow. Okay, it took me a long time to get to where I'm at. So I don't want to rob them the journey. And I say, I don't want to rob you of the journey. So let me just tell you this. If you have to ask me how you get endorsement X, you're not ready for endorsement X. So enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. And then, you know, I'll get some nasty comments or an eye, whatever. And then that's it. Yeah.
I want to ask you about that, but I'll save it for the gear stuff. Anyway, let's change gears a little bit. I want to ask you about, well, genuinely, I wanted to talk to you because I find working musicians much more interesting than a normal band, because bands, they fall into a record deal and everything's sort of given to them. People like yourself who have to work and have to think about that next paycheck, that's more real world. That means, you know, that's probably more realistic for a lot of us. And I really wanted to see how you operate in this world. You have to wear a lot of hats. There's a lot of different plates you got to spin.
Oh my God.
Which hat do you find the most challenging? So is it writing, playing, or the business side? What's the most challenging for you?
Managing it and staying
Managing.
engaged. Yeah. So I have a house, a wife, 2 kids, 2 daughters, and sole income, pretty much. So, you know, I do many different jobs, and this is something like you might hear, and that was a good point. You might say, here's so-and-so from band X from the 90s, and this is his rig rundown, and this is his gear. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say that word.
They
right?
come after you, Tony.
Yeah, then they have.
They come to me as well.
Did they? Premier Guitar did come to Bass Musician Magazine, and we had to change it. That's a kind of a funny story. They're like, we have to remove the word
rundown.
And I said, can we just substitute me saying Little Elvis every time it says that? And just make it like a real deep voice, Little Elvis, right? But it's many different hats, because I'm an A&R guy for a cable company. So Tsunami Cables, West Coast brand, I work for them. You know, it's a working man theater thing. I've done that for on and off for almost 20 years. Clinics. You know, people talk about like, oh, I got sessions. That's really small.
Really? Okay.
That's really small amount. I think your average musician lies. I don't think like, oh, I'm working in the studio, I'm doing all this. There's just so many artists you're hired to play bass for, really. Do they exist? Yes. Are they there? Yes. Are there a ton of it? No. It's not the 70s, 80s anymore, you know, and that was before my time anyway. So
it's a very small circle, isn't it?
It's a wicked small circle. To use a Boston phrase, it's wicked small. It's really small, and it's mostly live stuff and a lot of teaching. And I don't teach. Will not teach. You know, I don't think that's my thing, and I don't think teaching is like. It's just not my thing. It's not like the way that I want to do. Like, and the guys I play with are all teachers, but it's not necessarily what I want to do. So I'll work. I've done some licensing, so that helps. So it's a matter of like having 4 or 5 different irons in the fire, and that's how you do it. Maybe working some stocks too.
Yeah, it helps at this time, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I've looked at a lot of your stuff, like I said yesterday, and theatre comes up a lot, but I don't understand what you mean specifically. So can you talk me through what the theatre gig is about?
Oh, there's like a lot of musicals and performance art theater where there's it's a hired band situation, usually an MD. I've done the MD role too. So, and that's a small circle too. So being hired to do musicals is just, I mean, you gotta have your reading up, really. And it's just a pure money gig. It's like checking in and I'm gonna go make the burgers. Well, I'm gonna go make the music while these performers are performing, type of thing.
So would you be on the wings or in the back, that kind of thing, or on stage?
I've been everywhere.
Everywhere, okay.
I've been on a balcony, I've been in pits, I've been on stage left, stage right. I've been everywhere. So being an MD, having the charts ready, working with perhaps a theater manager and knowing where your cues are and being able to read a cue chart along with the music. So that's kind of a big deal. I like that. I've done enough of it though, and that's what kind of made me kind of break out of my shell. I started going to NAMM more aggressively 6 or 7 years ago. And maybe about 7 years ago, I don't know. And I just didn't want to work, theater forever. So I started going and I got asked to play at a couple of different bass events at NAMM. And I've put together more like a fusion thing. I'm like, oh, I'll put together these guys and we'll write some shreddy type of stuff and make the companies happy. But it made me happy.
Yeah, well,
I really like doing it. Yeah, I really like it. I don't know if you're familiar with the JT Bass Jam at JT Schmitz and the Bass Bash at NAMM.
Well, I know about the Bass Bash because only from your recommendation. Can you tell me more about that? So I know what NAMM is. The exhibition culture in the UK isn't as big as the US. So I know what NAMM is and I know how much of a big deal it is. How does the Bass Bash fit into that? Is that their main stage sort of thing?
It's kind of a cool thing, man. It's something that I always wanted to do. And the Bass Bash, it's kind of embarrassing. It's like, for me, when I first got asked to play some of those events, it's like playing Madison Square Garden in a way, even though it's a fraction of that. You're asked amongst your peers to go play with the world's best, some of the best bass players and perform and have an original act. And it's usually funky fusion type of stuff or what have you. Not necessarily always, but there's a lot of that. And I know you do mostly the rock stuff, but Rodney's played JT's Bass Jam. We got Rodney to play. It's a big event that's been going on. I don't know how long I know the Bash, I think, has been going on 15 or 20 years, but there was other events by other magazines that would rent usually a big thing at a hotel, and it's a bass event usually on a Thursday or Friday or Saturday night. And like the key players in the world and their manufacturers are there. And it's just the energy is, Alfie, is through the roof. And you're walking in, it's like a who's who of opening up Bass Player magazine. There's Stu Ham, there's Jeff Berlin, there's Marcus Miller, It's amazing. It's amazing. And then, it's not uncommon to see, like I've seen a lot of rock guys. I think I've seen a handful of guys, like you see Billy Sheehan and so forth, right? So they'll be there. So it's kind of nice. And there's usually a couple events now. It's kind of morphed into a couple. There's JT Schmitz is one of the big restaurants in Anaheim where it kind of started. And like major bands like the Aristocrats, like Brian Bella with Satriani, he formed that playing in that little room. And it's just that, you know, with Guthrie Govan, one of your statesmen, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they formed that there at the Bass Bash. And you know, I got invited to play, and I put together a band, and now I'm always playing something at NAMM the last, I don't know, 6 years or whatever. And it's changed my career because I didn't want to always do theater stuff or working stuff. I'd rather step it up and get acknowledged for what I do to more of a music community, you know.
I never thought of it that way. I mean, you're absolutely right. It is the pinnacle of our community, and to be held in high esteem with your peers, and to prove yourself, to show I deserve to be here. You know, I live on this stage, and I'm one of you. And yeah, I can totally, I hear you on that about the energy.
When I played the first bash, because there's a couple of them, there's the Bass Bash, and then there's the JT Bass Jam where the Bass Bash originated from. I had Victor Wooten and who's that John Patitucci, 30 feet from me, yeah, right by my side fills. And I'm like, oh, there's no pressure, right? No pressure at all. And I've been playing for a long time, and I'll openly admit this. And we started off with like something mellow that was going to spring, and like my second note was wrong.
Ooh.
And I slid a half step into it, and I'm like, because it got to me, and I'm like, I should know better. I should not let this stuff, you know, eat me up. And then the rest of the night was really good.
I doubt anyone noticed, surely.
I mean, there's a lot of discriminating years, you know, so who knows? But always like in show business, end on a good note, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So ever since playing those events, and I play with some really amazing musicians that make me sound better than what I really am. I've been concentrating on that stuff. I've been concentrating on that.
Well, tell me more about the groups you've been playing with. So there's Carly Simon.
I played with Carly Simon. Yeah, I was a touring guy with Carly. You know, I did in the local Boston theater scene for a while. And, you know, before that, when I was younger, you know, I'm a Gen Xer. I played in a lot of heavy rock bands, you know. That's my origin. So a lot of local heavy rock bands that kind of, and in the 90s, the rock scene changed big time. And at that point in time, I started studying with different people, and I got into different things, and that's how I fell into the theater thing. You know, I'm like, you know, music went many different directions, and playing heavy music wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do anymore at that time, although I still listen to it, love it. And now it's like a resurgence to me. And even though I can play funk and fusion, you know, I'll get up in the morning, go to the gym, and listen to Disturbed still. You know?
Going back to the theater thing, I know you kind of already answered my question, but I still want to hear it from you. You consider it a paycheck, but what drove you to the theater, like to work there? Did you have like an interest in drama and acting and just wanted to be part of that scene, or was it just the paycheck, like you said?
I fell into it meeting a makeup artist that worked in it by working Renaissance festivals.
Okay.
Right? Which working, it's kind of a sidetrack. The Renaissance Festival thing, the partying that goes on at the Renaissance Festival thing makes some of the rock and roll debauchery I've seen look like child's play. It really does. It really does.
You're kidding me.
No, I swear. It's absolutely nuts. I did the Renaissance thing on and off for like 9 years while playing and gigging and so forth. And, you know, my childhood best friend, that's still his living, you know? So he runs a bunch of different booths and has things at fairs. He's kind of matured, but like literally the guy I've known since junior high, that's his job now still. So I fell into it through him. And then from the theater thing, because I didn't know anything about theater. I'm some rock and roll kid from Boston suburbia, right? So I fell in it through there, and then I stopped doing the Renaissance thing and kept doing the theater thing.
So when I know you've mentioned already that session is a very small part of what you do, so it's probably not worth talking about that. Well, let me ask you then. So I was going to ask you. Let me read them out, and you pick which one you want to go for.
Okay.
What's your mindset when you take on a gig? So like, are there certain standards that you look for, or do you just jump in and ride the wave? What are the general rules of engagement when you're on a job? Is it very clinical? People tell you what to do and how to play, or do you get more input and contribution? And then the last one is sort of similar. How do you prepare for that job or the gig?
That's great. It all depends on the gig. I got two general categories. It's either like my fusion thing, I'm a major part of it. I'm a major writer part of it. I'm a major aspect of it. I'm one of the main organizers. It's not my band. Some people confuse it. The name of the project is called Dig by Terry. They're like, oh, your band. I'm like, no, it's not just mine, even though I'm the loudest mouth, maybe. I'm part of a creative force. So, my whole heart and soul is into that. If it's a hired hand gig, I make sure it's something that I don't consider embarrassing. And then I will do exactly whatever you want, Now, I've taken some liberty to turn down some things. Yeah, I have, right? Without mentioning names, there's a particular teacher at Berkeley that wanted me to play, one of their Berkeley performances. And it was written out note for note, which is fine. He had the whole bass clef written out note exactly, and it was pretty complex, which is, again, okay. I'm a fairly competent player. I'll whatever, okay. But there wasn't really, monetarily wasn't speaking the way. So as long as there's like a certain factor monetarily, and I'm not embarrassed, I'll do whatever you want. And then the way I'll do it is, I live with headphones on. I will study it with my eyes shut and listen 10 times or something like that before I even pick up a bass. I engross myself in it, look for tonal key centers, and then I'll ask, let's say it's an artist, I'll say, and then maybe they have an existing bass player or they had something. I'm like, how much liberty are you giving me? I'll ask for their parameters. What do you want exactly this, or do you want something, or do you want me? And the older I get, the more I do less of that. And I'm like, listen, I'm a very particular style. This is who I am. If you're hiring me, you probably want me for this. But I guess me 5 years ago or 10 years ago would be like, oh, you want it just like this? Okay, yeah. Oh, you're offering me X amount? Okay, yeah, I'll do that. And I've done enough of that. I've done a lot of that.
Yeah, I can see that being, to a degree, sometimes comforting when people say, just do this and get on with it. And then the flip side is true, where you want to be you want to express yourself and offer what you have, so I totally see both sides of that coin.
Yeah, they say everyone's got a price. Well, that's true. There is a price, and for some of it, and then I'll take it on and I'll do what I have to do. Right? Recently I got offered an audition for a fairly large band that most hard rock people know about, and I knew that there would be some possible issues, even though it would look great. And I'm like, okay, just knowing that there's really potentially bad issues with that, I'm like, nope, I don't want any part of it, So I can pick and choose a little bit now. As long as I have a roof over my head and my kids are all right, I'm picky.
I think that's all we all need. Yeah, just the security and comfort of home.
Right. So thankfully,
I was going to ask you, speaking of home and security, the last 18 months have been difficult, to say the least. How has COVID affected what you do? And have you either learned something new or found a way to mitigate these, the lack of global inactivity?
Wow. So financially, I've just invested in other things outside of music. Thank God.
Is that your cafe?
I wish. So I've invested outside of music to help me get by. As far as on a personal level, I'm like quintessential extrovert, loud extrovert. This doesn't work for me at all. Like as soon as they said in Massachusetts, the state I live in, mask can come off. I was like, whoop, blow torch in my backyard, and I know that's going to maybe piss off some people, and I'm sorry if it does. I'm vaccinated, okay? So, and I'm healthy, super. So
that matters. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too deep into that rabbit hole. I mean, it is what it is. It's fine.
Yeah. So, it definitely was draining, and it was definitely a time to learn more skills. And I probably didn't take advantage of it as much as I did. It was a giant reboot. More time with my children. I took up other things outside of music. I got into mountain biking, huge into that. So I stayed active, but I got more into, I'm a terrible engineer. How's that for honest? I'm a terrible engineer.
Audio engineer.
I learned more about production, learned more about video production, even though I'm not putting stuff out, per se, I'm learning for myself. So I'm super fortunate. The guys in the band I'm in, I'm like, they're pro audio AV guys. I'll never be at their level. And they want to do it. Okay, you guys do it then, So I'll play bass and chase the gigs. You guys do that part. So,
well, let's step up gears and talk about your gear a bit. So I want to cover a lot of ground, so I might jump around a bit from question to question.
I ain't scared.
So do you have like a daily routine for playing bass, or any rituals or warming up?
Yes and no. I approach practice routines in a couple of different ways, and I try to spice it up a little bit. I love, if I can just get one book that I love.
Yeah, go for it.
By Joe Hubbard.
Cool.
It's probably reversed or whatever. Chord Tone Mastery for Electric Bass by Joe Hubbard. Joe Hubbard, my God, he was a guest on my podcast. That guy knows everybody. His musical knowledge is super deep. Actually lives in the UK now. And I'll go through those routines. And if I really go through that, it'll take me hours just to run through. I'll open a real book and go through a particular piece, and I'm like, I'm going to play this in first inversion. Now I'm going to play it second inversion, play it in the third inversion, and then my ear and chops and fingers feel. And next thing you know, it's 2 hours later. Now I don't always do that. Sometimes I'll run through a particular scale. Like I'll pick a key, and I'll run through all the modes in a particular key, really slow, and hold my fingers down at like maybe 90 beats per minute, and then I'll work my way up to like 160 or something like that. And then that's one way. Or or I'll do ear training to the keys. So I kind of spice it up. I'll go to the keyboard and try to sing and play the notes. So there's always something different to kind of work on. I like the body confusion thing. I don't like to do a routine every day. I used to, but now it's when I have time, I go over and I'll try. I play every day. The bass is in my lap every day. So, but I'll either go through one of those routines, or, I'll program keys and keys in a drum, drum beat, and then I'll like, okay, all right, and I'll pick some odd keys like minor flat 5 or something like that, and then I'll jam over that for a little bit just to kind of get my improvisation going. So that's how I approach my practice,
I've also read that one of your influences is Jonas Helborg.
Oof. Yeah.
What is it about him that you like?
Oh.
Where do we begin,
Jonas Helborg's my favorite musician on the planet. I'll outright say that. And it's funny, he's my hero, and I got his cell phone number, I love how he expresses himself. He's busy without sounding too busy, if that makes sense. Like he can play crazy, but he never sounds like he's really crazy. I mean, there's a couple of pieces, don't get me wrong. You know, if people are listening to this, you want to listen to the tune Art Metal on the record Art Metal. And the riff he does at the very end of it blows me away and shakes me every time I still hear it. You know, a lot of guys, I'm a Gen Xer, so a lot of my colleagues, they're all like, "Oh, Jocko." No, I don't want to listen to Jocko. You know, I listen to Jonas Helborg's my absolute favorite. He really is. I love his expression. I like how he plays. I relate to a lot of my playing. Not that I sound like him, but
It's an inspiration.
Yeah, he absolutely 100%. 100% was an inspiration. Yeah.
I find that as well, where when you're growing up, you kind of have to get it in your head. You there's a sound you like, and you really wish you could sound like that. And then it sort of clicks one day. I can't do that. I'm not good enough. But I want to take elements from that. And I can totally see that if you just sort of pull little bits of that away and take it as your own and rework
phrasing.
it. Yeah.
His phrasing. Yeah, it was a lot to me. It's kind of like Geddy's phrasing, you know, like another Gen Xer favorite, you know, is, you know, huge for me. I've never met Geddy. No. Like some of my biggest influences, I love T.M. Stevens, Jonas, Geddy, Jimmy Earl. Now, I met all those guys, but Geddy. I'm almost afraid to meet, you know, like if that ever happens. Like, I almost want him unreachable.
Don't want to ruin the dream.
No, I don't want to ruin it. Like, one thing out of reach is kind of nice, you know?
Always keep aiming. Talk to me about how bass playing began for you. Did you start as a bass player? What kind of gear were you using?
I grew up in this town, this little boring town, like 9-10 miles north of Boston, Massachusetts, called Stoneham. I don't know if people pronounce it differently in other parts of the country or parts of the world. It just seemed to be like a mecca of like middle-class kids outside of a major city suburbia that all played music when I was growing up. Just, I don't know what it is. It's white picket fence land. You know, it might have been like 3 bands on the block or something like that, you know? And it was just immense mecca of it. And the kid next to me in high school, his last name was spelled very close to me. I went to vocational high school, and so it was all these kids that didn't know each other. And he just so happened to be a super smoking guitar player. and I was like, hi, how you doing? You know, of course I'm not shy, right? So hanging out with him, who's someone who I still talk to this day, actually, got me into playing bass.
And did he borrow you a bass? So what happened?
No,
like,
I just, you know, I first started playing guitar, and I'm like, this is super competitive. Everyone plays guitar around me. Everyone's like, you should play bass. There was like, you know, a dozen guitar players like, you should play bass. And I'm like, yeah, I think I will. And I think my first bass was a Charvel.
Really lovely.
I think I borrowed a quart. I borrowed a foot scale quart. And then I worked really hard, you know, the typical work really hard this summer, save your money, you know, like every rock star says it. Well, I guess it's true. If you got that hunger, I bought a white Charvel.
That's lovely. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Kind of wish I still had it in a way. And I played that for years and years and years and years. And then I built a Warmoth. And living in New England, the weather can swing temperatures like 30 degrees in a day, like, you know, like May, June, like this time of year, whatever, like major temperature and humidity swings. I was practicing so much, and I had an old house that my parents had this old house that the necks would move, right? And I'm like, oh no. So when I first heard about graphite guitars were coming out, I did everything I could to save for graphite. I wanted a graphite guitar neck so bad. And eventually I got my first modulus.
You did. Awesome.
Yeah, and then I was with those guys for years and playing theater. I was a modulus endorsee for
Ah,
a number of years. I came a modulus endorsee. I moved to Zon. I worked with Zon briefly. I didn't have a contract or anything like that. I actually had sorry, I'm saying this. I had a modulus Zon, and then I became a modulus endorsee. That's how that worked.
okay.
Yeah, I know it's really confusing and probably boring to people, but that's how it. And
I don't think so.
I became like a graphite fanatic, and maybe I'm fast forwarding and going things out of play. But they started putting out jazz basses, which I love, and then they had the big 35-inch scale quantums, which I played all the time. My biggest thing is like, how do I make a bass merge the best of both worlds of both of these? That's always what I always wanted. And then I sat and didn't do that for a while, and I got kind of lazy. I didn't pursue that. And then when I started to come up and get known and seen more on a national level, definitely on a local level and then an international level, like so to speak, and going to NAMM, I was offered a few deals, and I basically said, hey, I need a 35-inch scale, and I want something that's sleek like a jazz, but also as modern and big. And there's a few companies that I talked to. I won't bother to get into all of them, but Mike Lul offered me a deal, and then 2 years later, I thought about it for a while, and I literally sat on it for 2 years, and then I came up with this. This is a 35-inch scale.
That's stunning.
Right?
That is killer.
Yeah, it's based off the M5, Mike Lul's M5, like what Brian plays.
Yeah.
Right, Brian Bella, right? My camera's like probably not the best out of. I love the M5s, and then I wanted something a little bit more aggressive. So you notice for the gear nerds out there, this isn't quite like a jazz bass, even like the review said it, though it was.
They seem closer together.
Bingo.
Oh, yeah.
They call this the Avante pickup spacing. Sadowski is similar, not quite the same. They call it the modern, but some luthier called this the Avante, I guess, whatever. And
Okay.
that's what it is. Yeah.
I haven't heard that. I could see the difference. I mean, do you see a difference or do you hear a difference?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's tighter, significantly tighter.
Okay.
So with this pickup, obviously moved further back, it's picking up less vibration. So that's a tighter vibration.
I see.
And whether it's like if it was up here like an M5, there's much more vibration. You get deeper, wobblier sound. Not that an M5 is wobbly sounding, so to speak, at all, but it's just it's very tight. And I like my notes to come out like a machine gun. So
just clear, distinct notes. Yeah.
Yeah. If I do a fast run, like I want every note to pop. Yeah.
Tell me more about the Mike Lul basses. Now, I might get some flack for this. I haven't seen one before until I heard about you. So is that just like a UK thing or a me thing? What's going on with Mike Lul? Tell me about it. From like, if I've just come in from an alien world, tell me about Mike Lul.
So Mike Lul, is a bolt-on instrument, right? So it's a typical bolt-on, right? It's not a neck through, so it has that bolt-on kind of feel. One of the things I like about them compared to Sadowski, and there's nothing wrong with Sadowski before I get flack, right? They're a 35-inch scale, right? He does do 34s, but I like the bigger, longer scales. I have a very hard right hand technique, and I like the definition from that scale. So for me, I wanted a 35-inch scale no matter what. And so obviously, like, Brian Bella with Joe Satriani, he's a Lull guy. Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam, he's a Lull guy. I just happened to stumble upon them at NAMM, right?
That's the best feeling, isn't it?
I was like,
I found a secret.
knew about them. I knew of them and what have you. And I just checked it out. I'm like, this feels very different. And of course, when I was looking at different instruments, I think I have one here. I don't know if it's here or at my studio in Stoneham. You're going to laugh at me. They're not made anymore. It's these Cafe Walter headphone amps.
Okay.
These high-end, rarely small. They've got like 2 knobs on them. It's a very techy headphone amp. And they used to be sold through Bass Northwest out of Seattle. So I brought that with me and a pair of AKG ATH 50s with me at NAMM. I'm like, I can't really hear anything throughout all this noise and garbage, right? So I brought my own headphone amp, my own headphones and everything. And I was trying stuff out. And I'm like, wow, that's killer. And I was with my wife and she goes, you really like that? And I said, yeah, I really did. And I talked to you guys over at Lakeland and another company out of Germany and Sandberg. So I said I wasn't going to mention them, but who cares, right? Who cares?
It's up to you, man.
Yeah, I don't care. And there's nothing wrong with their instruments. It's just there was preference, and of course, there was a business conversation that it has to be mutually beneficial to the parties involved. That I can't get into details with, but like every endorser has got something like that, and they worked out everything with me quite well. So I was like, all right, I like these terms. And then after with them for a few years, and they came to me like, do you want a signature instrument? And so I'm not playing stadiums, you know? And they're like, no, but they know, the internet knows who you are. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. And I wanted to be something different, and the string spacing is different. And then these are Nordstrand big blades, and a big part of the bass. And I got to give a shout out to somebody. You familiar with Kerry Nordstrand?
I've heard of him. Yeah, I've heard of him.
The pickup guy.
Yeah,
Kerry's a buddy of mine. I love all those guys over there. Adrian, Stu, Sonia. They're my friends. They're not just people I work with. These are my friends.
Uh-huh.
And God, Kerry started helping me and giving me pickups when I was with Modulus, and my daughter's going to be 13 in a couple of months. So before then, so like 15 years ago, right?
Wow.
So yeah. So the big part, I'm just going to get my other one. The big part of my signature instrument is having Kerry's big pickups in there, and big singles or big blades in that Avanti position in a 35-inch scale with Mike Lul's M5 body style. And that really is what works for me, you know. It's not Jonathan Herrera from Bass Player Magazine. He's played my stuff. He's like, it's pokey. And that's what I want. And I go, and I think he was trying to find like a nice description because he's more of a vintagey guy and plays all sorts of different things, you know. And I'm like, damn straight, yeah, it is pokey. You know, I mean, I don't play just them, but it's like the record I'm doing now. It's 100% my signature bass on it. You know, 100%. I wanted to showcase that instrument. So
I think it must have been a video where you said you came into Mike Lul and you had a list of your specifications already to mind or to hand. What was on that list? So how did you sort of get all these elements and put them together?
35-inch scale, number one.
That was just the one.
Well, 35-inch scale, vintage frets, you know, 18 millimeters spacing was the other. Mm-hmm. And those was so 35, 18 millimeter, how to do vintage frets, how to feel comfortable. Like the horn's kind of long. It's an elongated thing. So and I'm a bigger guy, you know, I got a big, you know, so I wanted to sit on me kind of fine and easy. But, and I wanted something that would work with ebony. Mm-hmm. That's the other big thing, because I love the sound of ebony. And I think that was pretty much it. I mean, it's not like earth shattering. Oh, I want a gloss on my back of my neck. Okay. I wanted an ash body. You know, it's nothing earth shattering. But I wanted something that would work with Kerry Nordstrand's big series pickups, 35-inch scale, 18 millimeter. And just that alone cuts it down to like 5% or 3% of the bass market, you know. Mm-hmm. It was really down. So someone didn't do a 35-inch scale. It was like, nope, done.
touching on the cosmetic angle, you mentioned that one of the basses sounds different because of the color, because it was translucent, and one was.
Oh, no. Was it about the color, or was it about the figure top? I think.
Yeah, you mentioned about the flame maple top.
Oh, the flame maple top. So the flame maple top gets a little brighter
because of the lacquer and the gloss on the top of it.
I think it's. They say it. I don't know. This is now you're going into voodoo territory, bro science.
Yeah,
right?
I guess some people say tone wood makes no difference, and is this kind of conversation.
TalkBass will love this.
Well, it's up to you if you want to bother.
Divided 50-50. Wow, it's like saying that you're either left wing or right wing right now in this country. Okay, I'm just going to say it because I have a big mouth. I feel that tone wood generally makes a difference. Not 100%, not by any stretch of the imagination. Two pieces of ash bodies might sound entirely different. I have this bass times 2, exact bass times 2. Same specs, same everything. One's about a half pound heavier than this one. They sound, I don't want to say totally different, but they sound very noticeably different. They have the general aggressive Nordstrand, type of tone to it, and that the playability, obviously, of the Mike Lul 35, but they're definitely different basses. I had an M5. They were talking about well, how about we put like a, 1/4-inch maple top on it? And they say about a 1/4 inch is when the wood camp says if you put about a 1/4 inch worth of wood on of something, you're now starting to affect the vibrational aspect of the instrument.
Okay, I'm with you now. That starts to make sense.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And I wanted just an ash body, or just a solid body. I didn't need it. The bass is already tight sounding as it is. It's already aggressive sounding. I don't need to add more of that tighter highs. And that was, I think, I talked about that. I think Bass Musician Mag. No, it's not. It wasn't a cost thing. It was a tone thing. I wanted just a solid. Give me ash, more Fendery. Not that I wanted a Fender per se, but it just feels like, okay, that's the body, I didn't want like an alembic-y thing that has, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, no.
They have a place for it, don't they? They have
a
time and a
place.
place.
Right. I like hot rodded Fendery type of bolt-on style basses that are 35-inch scale and tighter string spacing that are on the brighter side in general. Can I talk about the cable thing for a minute?
Yeah.
I have a signature cable. Of course, not right here, right? No, they're all in my studio with stone. But I got a couple of the cables right here, They look cool as hell. All right. These are some older ones. Keith probably would not want me showing these older ones that have the longer wraps on them. But I've had them forever. I've had hundreds of performances on them. And they last. I went through 3 monster cables in a little over a year. And the guy I was working for said, dude, what are you doing? You can't have these cutting out. So I learned about Tsunami Cables, and I just generally approached Keith and said, look, as an artist, I kind of gave him what I would want to hear. Hey, this is who I am. Hey, this is what I think I can offer. And I didn't get anything free. I'll just throw that up there right now. Not then. And I go, here, give me your artist pricing for what you think I'm worth. And here's my large order, because I double everything. Everything I have is doubled.
Yeah.
So he's like, wow, okay. And I think it was Damien Erskine that told me about him. And I said, oh, yeah, so let's do this. And I did. And I think I've been with Keith, I don't know now, 9 years. I'm sorry for not knowing all these things off the top of my head, but like 9 years. In fact, he does this really cool, he does pedal boards.
I watched that video. Was that who done it?
Yeah, Keith from Tsunami Cables.
Oh, that was brilliant. Yeah, I watched that. That was really good.
But this has changed a little bit since then. But this has never been down. Oh, is it what? That's not wood. That's artificial. That's wood. So and this goes with me everywhere, you know.
Do you want to talk to me about what you got here?
Yeah, sure. Everything's always through. I have this board doubled, so kill tone, just a kill switch, mute, tuner. This compressor, I love it, and I'm not even an MXR artist. I use it all the time. So again, playing hard. And then this is a new addition because I've been playing mostly fusion stuff right now. If it was like a hard rock thing or something, there would be like a Darkglass there or a Darkglass up here. But this is the Fat Fook B, as I'm pronouncing it. The Fat Fook B. Some might pronounce it slightly differently. By Ren and Cuff out of California. It's just a boost with like a little bit of grind, just a little bit of grind. I've been preferring that for the fusion thing. You can just barely hear it, like it's sustaining hard. Of course, envelope filter, bass octaver, this envelope filter, and this just plain looking black box is a Rupert Neve design DI.
Ooh, how's that play?
You know, I'm a DI nerd.
You are? Okay.
Yeah, totally. So and I think anybody's playing clubs for a living or theater or what have you, or anyone's playing regularly should put more emphasis as a bass player into their direct signal, because that's the crux that the front of the house is hearing, right? So the Rupert Neve sweetens the highs. I can't even speak about what it really does, like, but it does do like something to the harmonics, to the lower mids. It just sounds thicker and sweet. It's like plugging into a Neve channel strip. But like, what's that magic that it does? I don't know, but it sounds good, right? The DI is the same way. Like I've had every major DI, you name it. And right before COVID hit, that's the DI I switched to that I was starting using live, and I love it. I love it. I have one on every board.
That's amazing. I mean, you bring up a great point, and I guess I used to work as a live engineer, and the DIs that the house had were shit. And so if you're a bass player and you are playing gigs, when you do eventually play them, bring your own DI. Don't count on the house's DI gear. Bring your own.
I bring my own, and that's an active DI. And if somebody gets weird with the active DI, and not that it ever happens, and can't send me a phantom 48 volt power to it, right, which we'll need, I'm even more nerdy. I've got it up over there. I have a radial JDI that I bring with me. I'm like, all right, here's the passive DI. Please just increase me by another 6 dB because it's passive DI. Here you go. And I always have something that's my responsibility that I want to give to the front of the house.
I'm thinking back from my experiences where bass players were an afterthought, like, oh, here's your cable, plug directly into the board. Like, no, can we not do that? And
No, they are. They're an after effect. We're just a necessary evil to some engineers. A lot of guitar players, they'll get the mics and they'll get this and they'll do whatever. I still, if I can get mic'd up for a rig, I'm like a little high maintenance, like a guitar player. If you can put an RE20 in front of me, if it's my own thing, on my cabinet, give it to me. I'll take that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Here's my DI safe line too. But normally for like a festival or something, I have to lay that down quickly. It's all done nicely, powered by Voodoo Power. There's my one line out, boom, boom. Back line, I'll do a throughput to my back line, whatever it's going to be there, and I'm good. I'm good to go. Yeah.
So you're a stress-free musician. You can just walk on stage, do your thing, and get out.
That board and that bass on an airline, I'm good to go. I'm good to go. I'm lucky that I'm a Gallien Krueger artist.
I was going to ask you about that. So yeah, tell me more about GK.
Oh, I love them to death.
Oh, I've been playing 20 odd years now. Not professionally, of course, but at home and in gigs. And my first upgraded amp, and still is, the GK 110 backline.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great, right? It's like, it all depends on what your style is too. I'm a punchy, cut through the mix. Not too high, not too low. I want to drive and be there. Nobody does it better, in my opinion, for the way I play. I want to, it's 2021. I got to preference everything with like warnings.
Oh no,
Right?
it's so fucking annoying. Yeah.
It's annoying. And don't get me wrong, like the Ampeg A&R guy is a buddy of mine. Dino, if you watch this, Dino, I love you. You know, but Dino Maloxis, he's a wonderful guy. He's the A&R guy for Ampeg. And he actually is a homeboy. He lives close to me too. He's only 30 miles away. But GK, nothing sounds like it. Nothing sounds
Definitely.
like that. Nothing sounds. It has a very particular tonal palette that works for me. You know.
I've always loved that sound, and even growing up for me, Duff McKagan, Flea, that punchiness from GK helped me create my own tone. So I don't want to part with that amp. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is people talk about like they want to emulate the sound of like some of the people they looked up to. And I can honestly say it's more the phrasing of people that I looked up to. I kind of like my tone more than anybody else's. I don't want Jonas's sound. I don't want Jimmy Earl's sound. I want my sound,
Yeah.
And GK helps me a lot to do that.
What else are you endorsing? Is there a difference between endorsing and promoting in that sense?
That's a good question. I don't even know. I don't know. That's okay. Who am I endorsing? I guess I'm endorsing / promoting all the same. Like to me, there's maybe no difference. Mike Lul guitars, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a good affinity also with G&L guitars. One of my best friends in the world is the A&R guy over there, Steve Araujo. So a relationship with those guys. Gallien Krueger amplifiers exclusively. GHS Strings exclusively. Tsunami Cables exclusively. Temple Audio, A Designs Audio, make the red DI.
Mm-hmm.
I love that thing. Temple Audio, I've been using Enki Cases now, the travel cases. Are you familiar with those guys?
No, I'm not.
Enki do like a lightweight multi. They'll like, I wish they'd make a 3 guitar one, but they just do 2. It's a flight case that you can roll up on stage, open up, and it acts almost like a boat. And it's great. I mean, it's not as big as other boats when you get like 6 or 7 of them, but like I could easily put in a plane, take it, roll off to a gig, open it up, and it acts as a guitar stand right there too. And I'm like, it's great. So a small company called Enki, they started out as a archery company.
Ooh, okay.
And, making cases for archery equipment and I think possibly guns. And they do great cases. Who else am I working with? Darkglass Electronics.
I kind of want to ask you on a personal level again, another personal question, if I may.
Sure.
I don't want to make too many assumptions about your sound. I find Darkglass a bit too twangy and too modern for my personal taste. And for someone like you, I maybe haven't heard it on the tracks I was listening to, but how does it fit with your sound? Like, I take it you like it.
That's an excellent question. I love Darkglass, but for very specific uses. For me, the drive is way down. And now I'm only tending to use the Darkglass for prog rock or rock. And for more of the funk fusion stuff I'm doing now, for my solos and everything, I'm using the Fat Fook by Run Cup because it has just a little bit of grind. I mean, you barely notice it. It's enough to notice it if you're paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle. It's super subtle. And that's exactly what I want. So yeah, you're right. The Darkglass sounds great, but if I was doing a Rage Against the Machine type band or something like that, then I would.
Yeah.
And that would still be the drive would be from really low. It's like Alex Webster from Cannibal Corpse, right? He's like, I think he talks about like his drive is really down. It's really down. So I love what they do. As far as the guys who use it really heavy, like one of the main endorsees is a friend of mine, Killian Duarte, and he uses a lot more gain with it and everything. And it's like technical death metal and all that other stuff that he's playing. And it fits that genre better, Even when I solo, I really want it clean.
Yeah.
I can hear better if I go, and not have them blur into each other, you know?
Absolutely. But I feel like I'm not getting it. I don't understand what it is.
No, they're definitely not for everybody, but I think they're if I have to use a straight overdrive, I will use them, but it's turned way down.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Yeah.
It's just there's enough on. Doug does a great job, but there's so much of it on tap. The
Yes.
beauty of it is I can turn the blend down. The blend's turned down and the drive is like off. It's really off. If you just turn the blend on just a little bit and the drive all the way off, you're going to get that just a light kind of purr. And for me, that purr is more than enough.
I need to try that. Just, yeah,
I'm going to send you a track that I did with my prog band Flight when I started to come out things, and it's using the low B.
Yeah.
And it's using low notes and using overdrive. And I think it's done in a I like to say it's done in a tasteful way where it's just enough, you know?
Yeah,
So,
please send me it. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
No, I'd love to hear that. Everything I've seen is everyone diming the knobs. It's like, that's not really a practical musical application. So to hear you using it in what you think is quite a subtle way, I'd love to hear. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think it's send it to you. That's really it. Yeah. And running, I mean, I'm not on the website, but I am now dealing with running Cuff as an artist. So I really like what they do. Yeah, and that's where I'm at with gear. And you know, I'm really happy to go to the NAMM show in Los Angeles or Anaheim, really, and demo for these people.
I guess in this last section, I was going to ask you about your music and what you've been up to for your own personal stuff. I was listening to some of your tunes. I've had Chick Kiss, that's been in my head for the past 2 days.
Oh yeah, Chick Kiss or TSK, yeah.
And KOK is good. Is that KOK or cock? But I don't know.
It's KOK actually.
Sorry. And Big Bad Burrito is another song that comes to mind.
I love
tell
that.
me about Big Bad Burrito.
So I love electronica. I really do. You don't hear like a lot of rock or fusion guys say they like electronic music. I love it. I love electronic music. So the breakbeat section kind of reminds me of what I would want to hear. And I've always wanted to hear more of a merger of electronica and progressive music in general. I want to use that term very, very, very loosely. And I like to mix those two together. Some people talk about a particular bass artist that does it. Square Pusher, right?
Yeah.
I think it could be done differently. Let me just put it that way. Yeah. So, I love how you get it subtly reading between the lines, you know? What he does is fantastic. I think someone else could do something a little different. And if I had more time and opportunity, I would.
I'll show you how it's done. Let me show you.
It's, you know, in the project that I was hoping to go last year, well, then COVID came, to Japan was Dig by Terry, and I'm playing with some wonderful guys in that. So it's kind of like the TSK thing, but a little different. We have keys. Jay Frigarillo, who's a Grammy Award-winning producer and mastering engineer. Joe Filoni is my guitar player. He's a lifelong teacher out of Boston, 30-year mix engineer. And Zeke Martin, who's the drum chair at Northeastern University here, is my drummer. So I'm playing with definitely some seasoned guys. And we played last year at NAMM, got a really good, you know, review. So, and now we're been recording slowly, and we were supposed to go play the first Boston Guitar Festival. That got canceled. Japan, that got canceled. So a handful of things got canceled, and now we're slowly opening up and doing our. Every time you say, well, my record's going to be out this month, it's always pushed back. So the goal is to have it ready for September, you know.
Okay. And do you have any dates planned for that?
Nothing yet. We're going to shop it. And the band is in like 2 different versions. We do shows without keys because, again, he's a mixed mastering guy. He has a studio that he's working out of constantly with artists around the world. So we don't always get Jay. But the three of us are doing some local shows here and there, you know, on a fusion level, kind of a funk fusion thing. And we're hoping to have more opportunities in the fall, but we're definitely getting our feet wet and getting back out there again. It's tough because people are reserved and things are starting to slowly open back up out here. I'm in a conservative part of the country via COVID, you know. I'm not in Florida where it's like full spring, or Texas where it's full spring. Massachusetts is a little bit more reserved. So, but we're getting our opportunities and I'm happy about that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. You hinted at me there was something you once learned from Johnny Lang. What happened there?
Oh, God. There's a nice way to talk about that. Johnny Lang. It's kind of a funny story and makes fun of me a little bit. There used to be a club in Boston years ago called Mamakin, owned by Aerosmith. And my friends in this band called Sleestack were doing a record release party there. And then there was a big open jam afterwards and so forth. And I kept on hearing like, oh, Johnny Lang's here and he's going to jump up on stage. Now, I had no idea who Johnny Lang was. Zero. No idea. I'm like, oh. Okay, right? Whatever that is. If there's chaos in a jam situation, I'll step up and bogart. I'll try to, I mean, as the bass player, I will start dictating the groove. I'll even kind of make a motion to the drummer to, can you keep it here, do this, do that. You know, I'm very good with the eye contact. And, you know, there's an open jam at this club. And this club is substantial and it's a great sound system, again, owned by Aerosmith. And I see this he was young, kid. He came up on stage playing I think he was playing a Strat, barefoot, glasses, nerdy, right? And I'm thinking, whatever. And he's kind of getting next to me a little bit and playing with me. And then he's trying to dictate the groove, you know, with the eye contact, whatever. So I'm letting him do his thing. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, who the fuck is this? Who is this guy? Who is this like little college nerdy type of kid, you know, whatever. But I'm letting him do his thing. And then I step up on the jam ends and, you know, it's dramatic and I'm getting off stage. Now, meanwhile, I'm starting a day job back then, like literally the next day. And that kid comes over to me and he's like, hey, takes my hand with both his hands. It's so good playing with you. It was really nice, whatever. And I'm not an asshole, you know, I was like gracious and it's like, oh, thank you and so forth and whatever. But I don't want to say I didn't give him the time of day because I definitely shook his hand and was gracious about it. But I said thank you and I kind of moved on. And then it was like a couple of weeks later, my girlfriend goes on the TV. She's like, at the time, she's like, is that the guy that just shook your hand? All right. And he was playing with Blues Travelers, right? And I said, holy shit, that is. And I had no idea. So it's one of the things I like to say to people is, and you know, I've always lived by this, but it just strengthens it more. Be kind to everybody.
Absolutely.
No, just be kind to everybody, you know.
Doesn't cost you anything.
Someone stops me at NAMM and asks me a question. Somebody writes me something. I do my best to get back to everybody. If somebody writes something on my Facebook or whatever, I acknowledge in some form every response. At least I do my best to. So it's just kind of stuck with me. So yeah, Johnny Lang. Yeah, that was embarrassing. I could have just talked to him, be like, hey, do you need a bass player? And so forth. Let's go work at a health food store, for Christ's sakes, right? So
I bet you are polite to every person that walked by. Hello, man.
Oh
hello,
my
sir.
God,
Hello,
anybody. And that, I mean, I was never a mean guy anyways, but like now, I'm like, very super like, are you high? You know?
So, Tony, thank you for joining me today. It's been absolutely brilliant to hear just your world and how everything fits together. Before we finish up, is there a final ask that you have for the audience, a recommendation or any parting thoughts? Anything you want to share? Anything you've learned? Anything people should know?
Yeah. It's not music related though, really.
That's kind of what I meant. That's fine.
Yeah, and it has to do with current world circumstances in regards. And I know you said you didn't want to get into it.
It's up to you.
Get off the. This is what I said to people: stop being divided. One of the hashtags on my Facebook thing says "Stop the Divide." I always said if Facebook came out in the late '80s, if that technology existed, people would just be talking about the next party. Where's the next party? You know what I mean? And now it's like the division of politics and you know, social behavior and pronouns and this and not want to offend anybody and cancel culture.
It's frightening. It's
scary, and I'll just say it. I bloody hate it. Hate it. Just go out and be cool to people. It's it. And put down the social media. Forget about holding anybody to your standard. Stop holding people to your standard. If they address you the wrong way, oops, let it go.
It's probably a mistake, right?
Yeah, it's probably a mistake. Don't hold it against them. Don't cancel them. Don't whatever. Just move on. Have a good time. Be progressive in life, and just let bygones be bygones. And just, you know, I'm. This isn't really my forte, the spoken word in this aspect or not. But like, I just wish people would just let go of their ideals and just be cool and move on with life. You know, like pre-social media, pre-smartphone. Just live your life the best you possibly can. That's really what I'm getting at. Like, I do my best to not get involved in anything political or anything of that nature.
Oh, well said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Just, you know, one thing I love when like you go to like the NAMM show or something like that, we're all there. Like, it's just one big friend fest, and what's this? And that's the latest thing. And so-and-so's playing over here. And that's it. And did you see that was so-and-so on the big stage outside? And it's just, I wish every day was like that.
Yeah. We can dream, Tony. We can dream.
We could dream. We could dream. So yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So that's my final words. Just be cool and enjoy life. You know, we're all gonna get out the same way. So
yeah,
just do what you gotta do.
Tony, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a blast. I've learned so much. Yeah, such a sweetheart. I'm so glad to have had the time to speak with you today.
Thanks for having me on, man. You're the best. And like I said, I'm a fan of you. There need to be more people on YouTube like you. I swear to God. Seriously.
Thank you. I sincerely appreciate that. It's brilliant. Tony, enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you very much for joining us.
Take care, my friend. Be good.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.